Welcome back to On the Same Page. We are on Daf Ches Amud Beis, 8b of Maseches Kiddushin. We are starting from about 10 lines down or so, end of the line, Tafresh Tanu Rabbanan. The rabbis taught in a brisa. Hiskadshi li b'mana. A man says to a woman, you should be betrothed to me for a maneh, which we learned last week is 100 dinar, although it doesn't really matter for this Gemara how much it is exactly. He says, be betrothed to me for a maneh, and he gives her a maneh. Natalto uzarakto liyam olor. She took it, and she tossed it into the sea, or into the fire, olachol davar ha'aved, or any other way she destroyed it. Eina mikudeshes, she's not mikudeshes, she's not betrothed. When she destroys it, when she gets rid of it, she's indicating that she's not accepting the Kiddushin. There's no Kiddushin here. Ask the Gemara, Hashadisinu kamei havu Kiddushin? The implication is if she doesn't destroy, she just throws it back at him, that would be Kiddushin if she throws it back at him. Haka'amarale shakil lo ba'ina. She's telling him, take it, I don't want it. So why does the brisa specifically give examples where she destroys it, even if she doesn't destroy it, if she just throws it back at him? Seemingly, that's saying, I don't want the Kiddushin, I'm not interested, and it should be Eina B'Kudeshes, it should not be good Kiddushin. But again, the brisa seems to imply that that would be. So the Gemara explains, no. The Gemara explains that that's not the case. Lo mi ba'i kamar. It's using a style of lo mi ba'i. It doesn't have to teach me that. That's obvious. Lo mi ba'i didn't need to tell me shadisinu kamei de lo havu Kiddushin. There is no need for the brisa to say that if she throws it back at him, that's not Kiddushin. It means she doesn't want it. That's obvious. But if she does take it, she doesn't throw it back at him, she just throws it into the sea or into a fire, Ema, I might have said, Kivan demechayva behu, Kiddushi kadesh nafsha. Since if she doesn't accept it or didn't accept it, she would have to pay for it now. She just destroyed his property. Right? So assuming that she's not accepting it, well, why would she destroy it? Then she's going to have to pay for it. She's going to owe him. So if she wasn't accepting it, seemingly she would have just given it back rather than destroy it. And not only that, it says v'hadika avda hachi. So why did she do it then? Why did she destroy it? So we're saying maybe, this is what I would have said. I might have said that really, obviously she meant to accept the Kiddushin. Because if she didn't accept the Kiddushin, then why would she destroy it and then owe him the money for it, to have to pay for it? So rather it must be that I would say she did accept the Kiddushin. Then why did she destroy it if she accepted it? So you might say, she thought, I'm going to check him out if he is an angry person, if he gets angry easily or not. That's what I might have said she was doing, that really she was accepting the Kiddushin, and the reason why she destroyed it was to test his anger. Kamash malan, that's what the brisa comes and tells me, no, we don't say that. Rather we say that if she throws it away, she means to destroy it. She means, I don't want this, and I'm going to toss it into the fire. I'm not interested, and she throws it into the fire. And yes, she'll have to pay for it. She'll owe him that money for doing that. But the brisa is teaching us that that's not Kiddushin. It's an interesting havamina, that what it's suggesting. I might have thought she is accepting it and she's destroying it to test his anger. I was just wondering, why would we even think that? It doesn't really make sense that she would test his anger at that point. It's a little too late. She already accepted the Kiddushin. But yet the Gemara that would have been the havmina. That's what we might have thought to say, that she accepted the Kiddushin and then tested his anger. But Kamash Malan, the brisa says, no, we don't. That's not how we understand it. Rather, we understand it that we interpret this scenario that she is not accepting the Kiddushin. That's why she's throwing it away. I don't want this. Tana Rabbar, and the rabbis taught in a brisa. Hiskadshi li b'maneh. If a man says to a woman, be mikudeshes, be betrothed to me for a maneh, and she says, Tanam le'abba u'le'avicha, give it to my father, or give it to your father. She says, I don't want it. Give it to him, or give it to him. Give it to your father, or give it to my father. Or to my father, or your father. Eina mikudeshes. There's not Kiddushin there. If she says, give it to my father, give it to your father, it's not Kiddushin. Amenas sheyikabu li. But if she says, give it to them on condition that they accept it for me, she's appointing them as a shliach, as a messenger. She says, give it to my father, give it to your father, mikudeshes. Then the Kiddushin is good. If she just says, give it to them, it's not good. If she says, on condition that they accept it on my behalf, then it is Kiddushin. Now, the Gemara explains why I need both Abba and Avicha. Why does it have to say my father or your father? Tana Abba lodiacha kocha deresha. It said her father to teach you how far even the first rule goes. That where she says, give it to so-and-so, give it to your father, give it to my father, it's not Kiddushin. Not only when she says, give it to your father, is it not Kiddushin, and she's saying, just keep it, basically, or give it to your father. I don't want it. That's how we interpret it. But even if she says, give it to my father, even then, she's not thinking that it should be Kiddushin and that he would accept it on her behalf or give it to her, or that would be to her, she would do that for her own benefit. No, she's not intending it Kiddushin if she says, give it to my father. But, and as well, Tana Avicha Lodiacha Koach Desefan. The reason why the scenarios included your father, not just give it to my father, it's or your father, is to teach you how far the second case goes, where she says, give it to him al menas, on condition that he becomes a messenger for me, that works. Then it is Kiddushin not only for her own father, but even if she says, give it to your father, she says to the man, even there, even though he's not related to her, still she relies on him that he will do his shlichus, he will do his agency, carrying out, and accept it on her behalf. Even though it's the husband's father, she's not related to her, she still relies on him. So it speaks both about her father and his father to each teach you how far each of these cases goes. Now, if he says, Iskadshi li b'mana, he says, become betrothed to me for a mana, and she says, Tinam leploni, and she says, give it to so-and-so, someone who's not related to them, not her father, not his father, just, Fred. Give it to Fred. Give it to so-and-so, to Ploni, Eina mikudeshes. It's not Kiddushin. It's not Kiddushin. But if she says, Almanas sheyikablu li, if she says on condition that so-and-so accepts her on my behalf, mikudeshes, that works. That is Kiddushin. So the same rules as we had for the fathers, that we said if you say, give it to my father, give it to your father, it's not Kiddushin. Same with a random person. Give it to so-and-so, it's not Kiddushin. But if she says, on condition that he accepts her on my behalf, so whether it's a father, the husband's father, the man's father, her father, or a ploni, a random person, it's Kiddushin. Utricha, and says the Gemara, we need both. The Brisa needed to teach me both about her father and his father, as well as about ploni, about a random person. If it are only spoken about her father or his father, relatives of theirs, there I would have said that in the case where she says on condition that they accept her on my behalf, that the Kiddushin's good. She relies on them, she counts on them. Savra abdin li shlichusai, and she believes that they will do their shlichus, they will do their agency, they will carry out their mission, and they will accept Kiddushin on her behalf. That's because they're related to him or to her. It's his father, it's her father. I might have said that's where it works. Aval ploni lo, but for a different person, if she just says, give it to ploni and let him accept on condition that he accepts on my behalf, I might have said that wouldn't work. And that's why the Brisa say, no, even in that case, it works, she relies on that. Now, it would seem if she was the one appointing the person directly, I think it would be obvious that it works. She could appoint a shliach, a messenger, to accept the Kiddushin. I guess what's unique about this case is she's not even dealing directly with the agent. She's telling the husband, give it to him, but on condition, he should know that he's accepting it on my behalf. So I might have thought if it's a random person, not a relative, she doesn't rely on that working. She doesn't really think it's going to work, and therefore it doesn't. But Kamash Malan, that's what the Bryce is coming to teach me, that even for a Ploni, for a random person, it works. V'yash Mainan Ploni. Now, if it had only taught me, if the Bryce only spoke about giving Kiddushin to Ploni, to a random person, not a relative, so then Hachu de Kiyamra Tanam Ploni Lavu Kiddushi. That's where I would have said that in the first case that we deal with, in the case where she just says, give it to him, and she doesn't say on condition that he accepts it on my behalf, she just says, give it to him, where we say it's not Kiddushin, so I would have said it's not Kiddushin when it's Ploni, when it's not a relative. Dula Mekarva Daita Legabe, because her mind isn't close to him, that she would give it to him as a gift. Meaning she's not close with him, she doesn't have anything to do with him, necessarily, at least she's not a relative of his. So she wouldn't give it to him as a gift. And therefore when she says, give it to him, if she's giving it to him as a gift, and it's coming from her, then that might be Kiddushin. Because he's accepting really her gift, but it's when the man gives it directly to the man, he's giving it on behalf of her. There it could be like it's Kiddushin. But if it's a random person, she's not related to him, so she's not going to give him a gift. And so there we would say it's not Kiddushin. Aval Abba V'Avicha. But in the case of the father, her father, his father, where there is a relationship there, the relatives, Dimekarva Daita Lugabayu, her mind is close to them, she's close with them. Ema, I would have said, B'matana Yaviseini Halayu, that she's giving it to them as a gift, but really when the man gives it to them, he's really giving it to her, and then she's giving it to them as a gift. But there's Kiddushin there. They're accepting her gift on her behalf, her gift to them. So I might have said that by a father, it works in that scenario. Tzricha, that's why the Brisa needed to teach me that no, it doesn't work. Even in a case where it's her own father. The man says, I want you to be Mikudeshes to me for a money. And she says, give it to my father. So what she's saying, is she rejecting it and saying, I don't want to give it to him? Or is she saying, okay, but give it to him as a gift. I accept it, but give it to him as a gift for me. So the Bryce teaches me, we say it's the former, that she's saying, I don't want it. That's how we interpret her words, that she's not accepting the Kiddushin. Tanu Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, Hiskachi li b'maneh. If a man says, be mekudeshes to me for a maneh, and she says, tinam al gabe sela, put them on a rock, on that rock. Eina mekudeshes, that's not Kiddushin, because she didn't receive it. Vimhaya sela shala mekudeshes. But if the rock belonged to her, so then she's mekudeshes, then it is Kiddushin. Why? So Rashi says the reason is because the sela is like her chatzar, it's like her courtyard, it's her property, and there's a kinyan chatzar, there's a kinyan, when something is placed in your property, you can acquire it. So here the Kiddushin was placed on her property, on her rock, so she could acquire the Kiddushin, and that's why the Kiddushin works. Bayi Rabibi asked a question, Sela shel shneihem mahu. What if the rock belonged to both of them? Does that work for Kiddushin? If she says, put it on that rock, but the rock isn't only hers, it's both the man's and hers, they're partners. They have before they got married, before they tried to get married, they shared a rock selling business. That's where they met, and that's why he wants to marry her. But meanwhile, they were partners in business. They both own the rock together. So, and she says, put it on the rock. So does that work? So the Gemara says, Teku. We're left off standing with the question. We don't know the Gemara doesn't know if that should work. Now Tosfos actually uses this as a question on Rashi on the previous point. Rashi said that the reason why when it's just her rock it works is because of a kinyan chatzar, that her property could acquire the item that's placed on it. So it's her rock, she acquires the property. Tosfos asks that if that was the reason why it works, then what's the question where the rock belongs to both of them? in such a case, we know from other Gemaras that it doesn't work. You can't make a kinyan chatzer when you own the property in partnership with someone else. So it should be obvious that the Kiddushin doesn't work in that case. What's the teku? What's the question? So Tosfos learns that it has nothing to do with kinyan chatzer here. The whole thing is whether she's samcha daita. Again, this idea that she has to be confident that she's going to receive it, and therefore, if it's a random rock, she's not confident that she'll get it. But if it's her rock, then she is confident that she'll get it. If it's both of theirs, we're not sure. In the case where it belongs to both of them, it's not clear whether she will have enough confidence that she'll get it, that when he places it on the rock, that it should be Kiddushin already from that point. Now, the Gemara continues with another similar case. It says, Hiskachi li kikar. If a man says, I want to be Makadesh you, betroth you with a kikar, with a loaf of bread. And she says, Tano lekelev, give it to a dog. The ding is, the halacha is, Eina mikudeshes, that Kiddushin doesn't work. If she says, give it to a dog, it doesn't work. She's saying, give it away. Right? V'im haya kelev shelah, but if it was her dog, mikudeshes, then there's Kiddushin because she's benefiting. He's feeding her animal for her, that's a benefit, and the Kiddushin would work. Bayir Mari asked, a fascinating question. Kelev ratz achareha mahu. What if there was a dog chasing after her? And he says, I have some food. The man's also running after her. I have some food I want to give you for Kiddushin. And she says, give it to the dog that's running after me. Does the Kiddushin work when he gives it to the dog? Do we say, Mahu, what's that halacha? Be'ahu hana dekamatzla nafsha minei gamro mekan yolei nafsha. Do we say that there's a benefit to her, the benefit of him saving her from the dog, that very benefit, it acts as the Kiddushin? Oh, Dilmor, maybe Matza Amrale, she could say to him, Midoraisa chiyuvi mechayebes latzulan, that the Torah obligates you to save me. There's an obligation, don't stand over your friend's blood. And if she's being chased by a dog, he has an obligation. So she's doesn't have to cut deals with him and accept it as Kiddushin. She's really just saying, you gotta save me here. You have an obligation. So do it. So how do we interpret her words when she says, give it to the dog that's chasing after me? Do we interpret it that she's saying, and I'll accept the Kiddushin through that hana, through that benefit? Or she's just saying, carry out your obligation to save me? The Gemara says, teku. We're left with the question in that situation. Hiskachi li bekikar. Again, if he says, I want to be Mekadesh you, betroth you with a kikar, with a loaf of bread, or a roll or something. And she says, Tano la'ani. No, give it to a poor person. She doesn't say no. She says, give it to a poor person. So-and-so. I guess a specific poor person. Eina mekudeshes. That's not Kiddushin. That's her rejecting it. She's saying, don't give it to me. I don't want it. Give it to the poor person. And the Gemara says, Afilu ani hasamuchala. And even if that's an ani who relies on her, even if that poor person usually comes to her for food, so you could say she's benefiting because she just saved money. She doesn't have to give him a meal. And maybe that hana, that benefit, could be the Kiddushin. Says the Gemara, no, even in that case, even if it's an ani, a poor person who always comes to her for food and relies on her, it's still eina mekudeshes, it's still not Kiddushin. My taima, what's the reason? The reason is because Amrale, because she can say to the man, just as I'm obligated to support the poor person, you're also obligated. It doesn't benefit me that you're feeding the poor person. We both have an obligation. It's true, I usually do it. I usually feed him, but you have an equal obligation. I don't benefit that you're relieving me of that obligation. You have an equal obligation. And therefore, even if the poor person is someone who usually eats from her table, still, when she says, when the man says, be mekudeshes to me for this kikar, for this bread, and she says, give it to the poor person, and she's sort of saving money that way, it's still not Kiddushin, because in such a case, she can say to him, I'm not benefiting, I'm really just, we have equal obligation, and it's your turn to fulfill their obligation and to support the poor person. Okay, well, we'll stop there.